Okay, for the next question, we are going. We are very close to the end of the interview. Unfortunately for you, we will talk again at the end. I received this nice gift from you. That is a sort of collection of traditional songs from what I see 1961 to something a bit modern until maybe the older one is 2008. And all the tracks are divided in areas. I know the story of it, but can you tell us something more about it?
Yes. You know, I was fixed or infected with the traditional sounds. For me are not so important. The real traditions behind the sound for me are more important. The sound itself, and also the technique to create the sound. And I started in the 2000s. I started a collection of old field sound, old recordings, and I developed an idea after a concert from Sven Molder. Sven Molder did it often, that he take the people on a sound travel through Arnhem Land. And I thought this is a good idea to do it with real recordings. And I looked, I searched in my collections what are the best Didge recordings, and I used also own recordings from workshops. And then I made this it's a map. This starts in Darwin, goes westwards to Perron Island, to the Kimberleys. This is the area where the traditional people play this Wonga style. It's a very interesting dancing style. I like the Wonga style. Then we go into southwest Arnhem Land in the area of Beswick. David Bernasi comes from there. And then we go north to Owen Pelly. I visited Owen Pelly also, up to Croker Island and Goldbone Island. And this is the area where they play these typical gunboat styles. And for this Wonga and gunboat styles, you need these Margo type instruments. And when you hear this, it's unbelievable for me. It's very interesting. And then we make a jump to the east, to northeast Arnhem Land, to Elcho Island, to Yirkala. It's the area where most of the Yolngu people live. And then more south to Groot Island. And these are 36 pieces. It's only private. I have some digitally remastered, and for very interested persons, yes, I have gifted CD, but I don't sell it.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to have a little impression, you can go on the website. There is I have a part. I have this map on the website where you can hear for education purposes short pieces.
Okay.
Yes, and because I like this real traditional type of playing, I start the wish. I want to alive the Aboriginal people on their own land, and I want to also explore what does the land with my playing style. And I want to do this in 2008, but one friend has to stop this idea, and 2008, then I thought, no, I don't do it alone. And my wife noticed that I every time deal with these thoughts or with this idea, and then she says, 2009, hey, do it alone. And I say, okay, I will do it alone. And this were my personal dream tour. I were 3.5 weeks in Australia. I started in Darwin. Then in Darwin we visited the West Arnhem Land through the Kakadu National Park to Owen Pelly. In Owen Pelly I visited all ceremony places where I have seen movies from the, I think from the 70s, from David Attenborough. And it was amazing to sit on this place with Aboriginal people and talk about. And it's unbelievable when you speak with these people. Sometimes it seems to be that you can feel their aura, if it exists an aura. And the people are very sensitive and they have a strong connection to their land, and you can feel this. And they say too, if you want to feel the land, you have respect the land. Yes, and then I go to the center of Australia. This is the typical Australia a lot of people know. Also in this area they play Didgeridoo, but the real origin of the Didgeridoo, the Yidaki, the Margo, and there are lots of names. Every tribe has its own name. The real origin comes from the tropical far north. It's Arnhem Land and the western side, and maybe a part of Queensland, I'm not so sure. But when you hear the playing styles, the Aboriginal people from the Arnhem Land, they have a completely other style. And when you hear in the rest of Australia playing other, also Aboriginal people, they play often like we Europeans, and that means they use often this instrument to find a way to their roots, because they have a very hard life sometimes behind, because in the 30s they divided children from the parents and tried to missionary the children. And this generation of Aboriginal people is, sometimes it's heavy to find their roots, and a lot of and they call it stolen generation.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about the film Stolen Generation a couple of days ago.
Yes. This the film where the rugby proof fence, the long walk home. Yeah. Yes.
In Italian, they translated in. Stolen Generation.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly.
Yes, and a lot of Aboriginal people use this instrument to find a new connection to their roots, and this tour was another point so emotional, because I was shocked about the ignorance of a lot of white Australians.
Yeah.
And the real Australians are the Aboriginal people. And the white Europeans, they occupied this land. And the craziest thing for me is, till 1967, the Aboriginal people falls under the same law like flora and fauna.
Yeah.
And that means you could theoretically shut down them like an animal. And this, it's unbelievable. And therefore when you visit Australia and you meet maybe in the desert area or other areas rest of the Aboriginal tribes, they all broken, also from the alcohol. And in the Arnhem Land, there is maybe the world is more intact. They live in the modern world, and sometimes also in the traditional world. Yes. And after the visit of the Red Center, I drove back in a group, in a little bus with the international group. I drove from the Uluru over Alice Springs back to Darwin. And last part was the participation on the Ripangu Yidaki Masterclass, first time held in Geipel outstation. It's an outstation on Arnhem Land, and yes, and we were 10 persons from all over the world, and we took part on this Yidaki Masterclass with the Gorobiwi family.
Yeah.
Very interesting, and after the second day, I say Charu says which person should adopt it, which visitor. This is not an adoption like in our society, because they have a very strong connection to their land and to each other. They need to have
they need to know the role of you in the community.
Yeah, yes. And I was adopted from Topia, Charu's wife, and from this point we were a part of this family in this week, and all runs very easy. And Charu is my brother-in-law, and in Yolungumata it's called Duwai, and I tested if it works. In the bush I called Duwai and Charu and it was very interesting, and interesting was too, I had my 50th birthday in Northeast Arnhem Land during Yidaki cutting.
Okay, great. This is a good news.
Yes. And I got the name Barugula Yunumpingu. The Barugula is the paperback tree, and I like trees. And the totem, Topia's totem, is the saltwater crocodile Baru, and she, because she adopted me, I have also connections to the totems from her, and she painted my Yidakis with Baru, with the saltwater crocodile.
Yeah, I know some pictures of it somewhere in some pictures.
Yes. And another guy, Andy Ruig from Switzerland, would adapt it from another person, and he got the name Baru. That means he had the name of my totem, and it was so interesting. And after this adoption day, we meet each other on a ship. We had a little bit luxus. We could bring the night on the ship, and it was good because on the land there are also a lot of sandy flies and so. And then we discussed, 10 people from all over the world. We discussed how we now how are our connections and relatives.
Okay, yeah.
It brings us together in a completely other way. It's interesting. And then I tried also to create a little story. I don't know exactly if it's right, but maybe the Aboriginal people, they say they are very connected with their land, and they say also when they ask from where comes the song lines, the Didgeridoo, and they say it comes from their land, and it comes from nature and former from Dreamtime. And then I thought, the sound of the didgeridoo depends on the inner shape of the instruments. And the inner shape is created through the growing conditions and the termites in this specific region. And maybe that in depends of these conditions you get special forms.
Yeah.
Maybe in the Western land little more cylindrical forms, and maybe more east little bit more conical forms. And when you play this type of instruments, I think automatically when you have a margo on your mouth, automatically when you explore the instruments, you feel to play the margo style, or when you have a good yidaki on your mouth, you feel to play more the sidaki style. And this is my story, that the songs, the bongo, the ganborg, and the
the evolution of the music in the nature
comes from their land, from their nature. It's a part of them.
Yeah. Thank you again. We have another, the last question I ask you before to finish the interview, and so you told us lots of information about the origin of your travel through everything about the didgeridoo, from the culture, the tradition, the traditional music, places, and the software. And now, what do you see in the next future for yourself about the didgeridoo?
This instrument is still means still something very special to me, because it's accompanies me on my, let's say, creative path. And now after a long living time, I know that I like a special kind of freedom. I'm a creative person, and I'm also a free thinking person. And this hobby gives me the possibility to live out my creativity, and also my wish for personality freedom. Let me say for creative freedom. And this hobby, I can live out my musical ideas, or my sound exploring ideas. I can also live out my interesting on complex systems with mathematics and physics, and also my interestings to work with tools. And an interesting thing is when you try to make models from reality, and the model I work in the direct evolution is only a mathematical physical model, but it's not real. And when you create such models, it's very important to compare this model with reality, and therefore you need experiments, and the experiments are the building instruments, and therefore I start building instruments by myself, with templates and with chisels and also with wood carvers, and you have to work very exactly. Therefore, when something asks for my instruments, they are more expensive than other instruments. Yes, because the building is one part, the development is the other part. In such kind of instrument, there are a lot of more than in only hollowed tree.
Often I say the nice thing about the didgeridoo is that every pipe has sound. But even the worst part of the didgeridoo is that every pipe sounds. And so people at the beginning don't know how to deal and what to what to buy. They don't know anything. Maybe they find something cheap and they try to buy it, and maybe this instrument does not work. They are in trouble because they don't know if they are not able to play that didgeridoo because it was a cheap didgeridoo, or because they have to practice more. And yeah, so
in former times I used often an example. Maybe sometimes it sounds not so good, but I say when you take a wooden box and bring some wires on the wooden box, you can play on the wires, you hear sound,
yeah,
but you don't have a good guitar.
Yeah,
and the same as with the didgeridoos. On every tube you can bring a tone out. And also when you stay in Australia, you will find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of didgeridoos, but only a little percentage are good playable and sounding instrument. And the best playable and sounding instruments often the Aboriginal people use for themselves. And this is for me also a problem with the instrument, with the music instrument. A lot of people have didgeridoos, good painted didgeridoos as a souvenir, and you can hang it on the wall and it looks fine.
Yeah, maybe they are short, or as I have seen, I found someone, he put a didgeridoo towards a wall using 2 screws through the body of the didgeridoo. So yeah, you never know.
And when you're really interested on special sounds and on a didgeridoo as a musical instrument, you have to spend more.
Yeah.